we can deploy applications on App Engine, it's probably a good chance for us to take a step back and look at how we actually get all of this traffic across the internet in the first place. So, it's kind of amazing to stop and think that you type in an address and then usually within an imperceptible amount of time, you get a fully rendered web page in your browser. So that's pretty impressive with all of the things that are going on. Because, first off, if you just open up a browser and you type Amazon.com and then you hit enter, there's a lot of steps that happen along the way. The first thing is that your computer is going to say, okay, what is Amazon.com? What does that actually mean? And it's going to send a request over your network to eventually some DNS server, a domain name service that's actually going to, or domain name server, which is going to tell you what the IP address is. So the IP address is just this number that every website is going to have some kind of number associated with it. That's how the computer can identify where it is. So the DNS, it's the domain name system. It basically translates the domain name that you and I can understand to an IP address, which the computer is going to understand. This is going to allow it to find it on the network. An IP address is one of these numerical labels assigned to every device in an IP network, an internet protocol network. So you're going to see those come up as 4 octets. It's going to be something like, like in your home network, it might be 192.168.0.1 or 192.168.1.1, something along those lines. And then it could be a whole variety of different options if we're actually looking at public internet addresses. Now, once you actually have the IP address, you need to build up an HTTP request. So your browser is going to build this request. It's going to have the information that it's looking for. So HTTP is your hypertext transfer protocol. This is basically the protocol that allows messages to be sent back and forth on the World Wide Web. Often we just kind of say the internet nowadays, but everything that's in the browser is really the web here. So the HTTP request is going to be a request for some resource. That's something that we're going to request. That might be a particular page, it might be a particular image or a script or something else, but we tend to call all of these different things on the web a resource. So we're going to construct this HTTP request, which is going to identify some server and some resource that we're going to try to get from that server. So an HTTP request looks something like this. You're going to have first a method. This is the get method, and we're going to try to retrieve this particular resource at this path, so /doc/test.html, and then it's going to have the version of our protocol, HTTP/1.1. And then we're going to have a host. This is the server that we're actually trying to contact. We're going to have things that we can accept, so there's going to be a lot of different types of formats we accept, languages, etc., encodings that we can use. It's going to tell us tell the server, the user agent, basically what is the type of browser that I'm using that's requesting this particular content so that it can be sent properly. And then we're going to have content length identifying how much we're sending, and then you can see here these are going to be parameters. We'll get into parameters a little bit later. So we send this off to your home internet router or your Wi-Fi, whatever you have at home trying to get this. So it's going to say, hey router, take this to the right IP address, and your router probably isn't going to know what that is unless you're requesting something on your local network. So it actually has to go somewhere else. So it doesn't know where this particular request is. We have to send it somewhere else. And basically from there we're going to go to our ISP. We're going to send this out to whoever it is you're using, Comcast or whoever, and that ISP now is going to have to try to locate where that address is. So typically that site you're going to be accessing is not going to be located at the ISP itself. It's probably going to have to go somewhere else. So your ISP is now going to have to talk to some tier 2 network that connects some ISPs together. Basically it's going to have to send this up to a higher level in order to locate where this server is. So from there, we actually may be able to connect directly to it. It's possible, but chances are we have to connect to a tier 1 network. So the tier 1 network is basically a network that allows us to connect to pretty much anything else on the internet. So these are the big networks, the global networks that allow us to get to all of the other networks across the internet. So the tier 1's probably going to be able to locate where this goes, and a tier 2 network, like a tier 2 network might be connected to many other networks, including data centers for companies and internet service providers, but a tier 1 network can get across the entire internet. It can go everywhere. So as of last year, the largest of these were Lumen Technologies, Verizon, Liberty Global, and AT&T. So some names you might have heard. That's a different Lumen than the one in the TV show Severance. Totally different company, though who knows what they do on that show. I'm not sure. So moving from there, we're going to go downward back to the machine. So the tier 1 network has this HTTP request, and it's going to go through some particular network. Maybe that's through a tier 2 network. Maybe that's through an ISP. Maybe that's connected directly to the data center that you're trying to access. In the case of Amazon, it's very possible that the tier 2 network is connected to one of their data centers. So this is going to go into something. We typically represent a server that we don't know what's going on or what's happening as a black box. It's basically saying we're going to send something into it, we're going to get something out of it. So we're going to send this HTTP request in, this black box, this server that we don't really know about is going to give us some type of HTTP response. So from there, that's going to travel back through the entire, basically the same path. And if you open up your command line, you can actually see how this works. You can type traceroute or traceRT to figure out all of the different places where this is actually, the different devices that your requests are hitting between your computer and the machine you're trying to access. So we're going to get a response back. That response is going to contain probably HTML in this case. That HTML is now going to have references to all sorts of other things, images, style sheets, certain scripts we want to run. So we're going to actually get a lot of different things back, and this will allow us to render the full page, because the page isn't just one thing. It's going to be a lot of things. So the HTTP response contains the response, in this case, like I said, likely HTML from the server, and from the server where we sent the HTTP request. The HTML is going to be your hypertext markup language. This is really the language that describes the content, provides the content, somewhat how it should be displayed. If we go back in time 20 years ago, the HTML probably contained pretty much everything we would need. It might have had some basic JavaScript or CSS, but nowadays the HTML probably just provides basic structure. A lot of that work now is a lot of the sort of formatting is done with CSS now. JavaScript is going to be your language that can produce the interactivity, evaluate logic in your browser. Basically any type of interactive pieces you have in your browser are probably going to be JavaScript based. And then CSS is going to be the cascading style sheet. So this is just how we kind of describe how things should be formatted, and to some level how they should be laid out in your browser. So that'll do it for just a basic quick overview of how we actually move things around the internet. We're going to take a little bit of a look into what we actually do in these web servers in this next video. Thanks for watching.